You know you need to say no. You've decided that this request doesn't work for you. You're clear on your boundary. But then imagine actually saying it out loud and your stomach drops. It's like somebody punched you in the stomach. You picture the other person's face falling. You hear their disappointed sigh. You anticipate the guilt trip, the pushback, or even worse, the conflict. So guess what? You say yes anyway, even though everything in you is screaming no. Sound familiar? Today, we're going to solve this problem. I'm going to show you exactly how to say no in ways that minimize drama, reduce guilt, and maintain your relationships, all while honoring your boundaries. By the end of this episode, you'll have a framework for saying no that feels honest, kind, and clear. Hey, beautiful souls. Welcome back to my channel. I'm your host, Priya. In my last episode, we talked about why saying no feels so hard and how to shift your relationship with guilt around saying no. Today, we're diving deeper into this. We're getting tactical. We're going to cover how we can improve our delivery on saying no and the anatomy of a clean no that doesn't invite negotiation or conflict. How to handle the most common reactions people have when you set boundaries, specific scripts for different types of situations, and what to do when people don't take no for an answer. This is practically a playbook to implement boundaries in real life. And before we dive in, go to my link, www.unmutewithpriya.com, where you can get access to my free training, How to Say No Without Feeling Guilty and Still Feel Like a Good Person. When you do that, you'll be subscribing to my email list. So let's talk about why most no's create drama. How many times have you said no to somebody and all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're in a big fight? All it was because you just didn't want to go out that night. The problem with how we usually say no, let's talk about that. Most of us haven't been taught how to say no effectively. So we end up saying it in ways that either leave too much room for negotiation, come across as harsh or cold, and include so many apologies and explanations that somewhere in there our no is buried and sound uncertain. So it invites people to change our minds. Let's talk about over-explaining. I can't come to your party because I have this thing with my sister and then I need to go get groceries. I've been so tired lately and I really should clean my house. And guess what? Here's the problem in that one. The more you explain, the more you invite the other person to problem solve for you. Each reason you give becomes something they can address. Oh, your sister canceled, so you can come now. Or you can do groceries on Sunday instead. Or just clean your house another day. Your no should not be a puzzle for someone else to solve. Let's talk about apologizing excessively, because I've been there. I'm so sorry. I feel terrible about this. I know you're probably really disappointed. Meanwhile, they might not even care, and you're telling them that they feel disappointed. I wish I could. I feel awful. Guess what apologizing excessively does? It signals to the person that you think that you're doing something wrong. It invites the other person to agree with you that, yes, this is disappointing them. And you should feel bad. And makes your no sound uncertain. So if they push hard enough, you might change your mind. Let's talk about leaving the door open. I can't this time, but maybe next time. I'm not sure. Let me see how I feel later. I probably can't, but let me ask closer to the date. Oof, that confused me. When you leave your no uncertain, you invite continued pressure. The person hears maybe instead of no. So they keep trying. You also end up having to say no multiple times instead of just once clearly. And being vague. Let's do this one. I'm not really feeling it. It's just not a good time. I don't think so. The problem with that one, vague no's don't register as no's. They sound like you're still deciding or like you need to be convinced. Clear communication requires clear language. Let's talk about the false excuse. I'd love to, but I have plans already. When you don't. Problem with that, lying about your reason makes you feel inauthentic. And if you get caught in the lie, it damages trust. Plus, it suggests that a pre-existing commitment is a valid reason to say no, reinforcing that you can't just say no because you don't want to. There has to be a reason. Now, I just gave some pretty tangible examples of situations how we say no. Notice what they all have in common. They communicate that your no isn't solid. They're negotiable, apologetic, uncertain, requires negotiation or justification. People pick up on this uncertainty, consciously or unconsciously, and they respond by pushing back, trying to change your mind, or feeling hurt because your wishy-washy delivery made them think you wanted to say yes, but you just didn't. So what makes a no clean? A clean no has several components to it. It's clear. There's no ambiguity about whether you're saying yes or no. The other person should have zero question about your answer. It's kind. So just because you're saying no doesn't mean you have to be mean. I've had people say to me, "Oh, I don't want to say no because they'll think of me as a bitch." Why did we have to equate that, saying no, with being considered a bitch? You can be firm without being harsh. A clean no acknowledges the other person's request without taking responsibility for their emotional reaction to your boundary. A clean no, it's complete. It doesn't leave room for negotiation. It's not wide open unless you genuinely want to negotiate. It stands on its own and doesn't require any further discussion. Clean no is honest. You're not making up excuses. You're stating your truth in a way that's appropriate to the relationship and the situation. I remember there were a few times where somebody had come into the city when I was living in New York City to visit. I didn't really want to hang out with this person, but I did it anyway. And we went to lunch, and I ended up resentful because I knew this person's pattern around paying. I often ended up paying for a lot of her stuff. And that happened. And then she wanted to get together in the evening. I already knew the minute we sat down for lunch that I did not want to get together in the evening, but I didn't say it right away. Instead, I made up an elaborate excuse about a funeral, that somebody had died suddenly. What a horrible reason. Why I just couldn't have said no is beyond me. And she knew it. She picked up on it, and she knew that it was a lie. Now, a clean no is also unapologetic, or requires minimal apologies. You might include, "Oh, I appreciate the invitation," or something that acknowledges the invitation, but you're not groveling or treating your boundary as something shameful. Here's a simple framework for a clean no. And it's essentially an equation, a math equation. Appreciation and acknowledgement plus a clear no plus an optional brief reason plus an optional alternative. Let's break this down. The appreciation and acknowledgement. Thank you for thinking of me. I appreciate the invitation. I'm honored you asked. It's optional, but it can soften the delivery without weakening the no or making you apologize. Keep it brief and genuine. And if you don't feel it, you don't have to say it. The clear no. I won't be able to make it. That doesn't work for me. I'm not available. Oh, thanks. I'm going to pass. That's the non-negotiable part. Use definitive language, not wishy-washy language. The wishy-washy language is what creates the conflict. It is what creates fights. You can, if you want, state a brief reason, but it's optional. I have other commitments. I need to prioritize my energy right now. That's not aligned right now. But you don't have to give a brief reason. The reason should be stated as fact, not as something that requires their understanding. And an alternative. I'd love to connect another time. Let me know if there's another way I can help you with this, or I hope you have a wonderful time. And that also is only appropriate if you genuinely mean it. Don't offer alternatives just to soften the blow if you don't want to follow through. So I'm going to give you some examples in action. So a friend asks you to come and help them move. Here's the clean no. I appreciate you thinking of me, but I'm not available that weekend. I hope the move goes smoothly. Think about that. Brief appreciation, clear no, no elaborate explanation, genuine well wishes. Here's another situation. Your colleague asks you to do some extra work. Here's a clear no. I understand this project needs support, but I don't have the capacity to take this on right now. Clear boundary, you acknowledged it, and a brief reason that's honest, but doesn't over-explain. Here's another one, a situation where a family member wants you to attend an event. The clean no, I won't be able to make it to the gathering, but thanks for including me. I hope you have a great time. I was just invited to a family event that's going to be in November, and I don't want to go. But rather than saying no in that moment, I've already given an elaborate excuse, and I wasn't being honest with that person. Notice in that example, there's a clear no, you've given appreciation, and no justification about why you can't make it. Here's another one. Someone asks you to lend them money. Clean no. Sorry, I can't. Simple, complete, no explanation required. Sometimes no, that doesn't work for me is a complete sentence. You don't owe anyone an explanation for every boundary you set. Your no is valid simply because it's your choice. You can consider giving reasons when the relationship is close and explanation feels natural, the situation's professional and the context is helpful, or you genuinely want to offer alternative solutions. But skip the reasons when you're dealing with someone who doesn't respect boundaries. The request is inappropriate or unreasonable. Over-explaining has gotten you into trouble before, or you're early in your boundary setting journey and you need to practice it first. Now, I know that I've said no to a few people, just a clean no, without explanation, and it still created conflict. It still created a fight. But that wasn't on me. That was because of their inability to accept my no. Your tone matters as much as your words. So your no should be calm and neutral, not defensive or aggressive. So being able to say, no, thank you, I can't come today. As opposed to, what do you mean? How do you expect me to be there at 6 o'clock in the evening? I can't come to that. The minute you get defensive or aggressive, that's when the fight is starting. You need to be warm but firm, not apologetic or uncertain. And you need to be final, not questioning or seeking approval. So practice saying your no's out loud before difficult conversations. Notice if your voice goes up at the end, making it sound like a question, or if you sound tentative, it's questionable, or if the person leaves saying, okay, well, I'll check in with you later and see how you feel about it. If you're getting that kind of response, but you meant to say no, then it's in your messaging. It's in your delivery. Work on delivering it with quiet confidence. Now, when you start setting boundaries, people will react. We've talked about this on the other episodes. Whether you're setting boundaries with no, whether the person is narcissistic, people are going to react. Some reactions will be supportive and others will be challenging. And let's prepare for the most common ones. The guilt tripping. Wow, I thought I could count on you. Or I guess I know where I stand. Or must be nice to have that kind of free time. You don't have to take that bait. Don't defend yourself and try to prove that you're a good person. Renege on your no and say, all right, fine, I'll go with you. Just restate your boundary. I understand you're disappointed, but my answer is still no. I care about you, but I'm not available for this. You can say things like that. I wish I could help everyone with everything, but that's not realistic. So the second reaction that you might get, they might question your reasons. But why can't you? Or what else do you have to do? Or can't you just? You don't have to justify your no. You can either say, oh, as I said, it doesn't work for me. I'm sorry, I'm not available. Or I've shared, you can redirect them. I've shared what I'm comfortable sharing. Let's move on and change the topic. Or be direct. I don't need to explain. The answer is no. A third reaction is they might try to problem solve your no. What if we did it on Saturday instead? Or what if I picked you up? Or what if it was just for an hour? They try to make it packaged so nicely that you're going to have to say yes. This is where people try to solve the problems, keeping you from saying yes. Don't engage with the problem solving unless you actually want to find a compromise. I appreciate you trying to make it work, but it doesn't work for me right now. Or you could say, it's not about logistics, it's not about the schedule, I'm just not available. Now the fourth one, this might resonate with you, emotional manipulation. People might cry, get angry, they might give you the silent treatment, telling you how much they are hurt from your decision, bringing up all the times they've helped you. Even in 1947. How do you respond to this? You don't have to take responsibility for managing this. You can acknowledge their feelings without changing your boundary. You can even say things like, I see you're upset, and I'm sorry this isn't the answer you wanted. My no is no. Or I understand this is disappointing for you, but I'm not changing my mind. You can even say things like, I see you're having a reaction to this, but that's not my responsibility. Now, reaction 5, you might get passive aggressive comments, subtle digs, sarcasm, indirect expressions that they're not pleased with your response. How do you respond to this? You can ignore it or address it directly. So if you're ignoring it, you're going to just let the comment sit in the air and let it dissolve into the ethers. Their discomfort is theirs. If you wanted to address it, you could say something like, wow, that sounded like you're upset about my decision. If you want to talk about it directly, I'm open to that. Otherwise, you can't talk to me like that. Now, reaction 6, asking you repeatedly. They come back days or weeks later, asking again and hoping that you've changed your mind. And how to respond? You could say, well, I already told you my answer is no. Please don't ask again. My answer hasn't changed. Please respect that. Now, there's an important acronym that I've come up with that's helpful to remember when people push back on your boundaries. Don't jade. Jade. Take note of this. Justify, argue, defend, or explain. Jade. When you jade, you're inviting continued negotiation. You're suggesting if they can counter your justification, argument, defense, or explanation well enough, you'll change your mind. Instead, repeat your boundary clearly and move on. You're not trying to convince them that your no is valid, because your no is your no. You're just simply stating. Now, what happens when the relationship can't handle your boundary? Sometimes when you start setting boundaries, you'll discover that certain relationships were built on your lack of boundaries. And when you say no, these relationships will fall apart, dissolve right before your eyes. And that can be a painful process, which is why I'm sharing it now, just to give you some preparation. It tells you that the person valued your compliance more than they valued you, that your values didn't align. Not every relationship is meant to survive you and your evolution, especially if you're committed to growing and becoming a better version of yourself. It's okay. The relationships that matter will adjust. The ones that don't will reveal themselves. So let's get super practical. Here's some ready-to-use scripts for some common situations. We've got work scenarios, right? The boss gives you an extra project and you know you don't have the capacity for it. Instead of getting defensive and scared and fearful and saying yes because they are your boss, you could say, well, I want to be realistic about what I can deliver with quality. Taking this on would compromise my current projects or my workload or my caseload. Can we talk about this some more? And when you do that, you open it up for conversation. Now, if this boss is meeting you head on and with resistance and forcing you into something that you know is not going to be in your highest, is going to make you depleted and have you existing from an empty cup, it's time to consider whether this is a job that you really want to stay in. Let's talk about when a colleague asks you for last minute help. You could say, I can't really help you with this now. Have you asked this colleague or checked with this person, other resources that they can help you with? Now, being asked to work outside business hours. You could say, I'm not available outside of work hours for non-emergency issues. Let's schedule it during the workday to discuss this. Pull out your calendar and actually look at your workday and schedule it together. Now let's get into some social situations and scripts around that. If friends invite you to an event that you don't want to attend, you could say, thanks for thinking of me. I'm not going to make it. I hope you have a great time. Now, they might say things to you, and I've had this said to me, oh, you're missing out, or you're going to miss out. You could say, you could either go into that guilt place and say, oh man, I am going to miss out. Or you could say, oh no, I won't miss out. And just be confident in your decision. Someone wants to vent to you, but you don't have the capacity. You don't have the time right now. You could say things like, I care about you, but I don't have the bandwidth for this conversation right now. I really can't be fully present to you. Can we talk about it another day instead? And then I'll be able to be more present with you. How about group plans? Group plans are really interesting to navigate around. But when there's a group plan that's come up that doesn't interest you, you could say, that's not my thing. But thanks for including me. Thanks, y'all. If relatives ask you to host a holiday gathering, you could say, I'm not hosting this year. Let me know what the plan is and I'll see if I can attend. If somebody wants you to visit when it doesn't work, those dates don't work for us. We're available on these dates if you'd like us to plan for that. How many times I can tell you I had to change my calendar around because I had to accommodate the other person's calendar. And that left me resentful and angry. But now, as I've found my voice, I'll say, these days don't work for me. These dates are better. And I find that there's more middle ground there. Let's talk about some financial requests, because this is a hard one. Someone asked to borrow money. You could say, oh, sorry, I don't lend money to family and friends. It's a personal policy that helps me keep relationships healthy. Somebody wants you to co-sign or guarantee something. I cannot tell you how many people have talked to me that they've co-signed something out of pressure. But you can simply say, that's not something I'm comfortable doing. Now, lastly, I want to talk about a relationship scenario. Partner wants you to skip something that's so important to you. You could say, that's really important to me and I'm not willing to skip it. Let's find another time to do what you want to do. Your friend expects you to always be available. Now, here's the last one. Someone crosses a boundary repeatedly. I've asked you not to do this. If this continues, I'll need to create more distance in our relationship. Now, recently, somebody crossed a boundary that I had set pretty clearly and multiple times. I voiced to this person about this boundary being crossed. And I know that it was met with resistance and defensiveness. And this person said, I would like to talk about this with you because I know you set this boundary and it was crossed. That was a few weeks ago. I haven't heard from this person. And the older version of me would have tried to go and fix this, would have tried to make up or that I said something wrong because I got silence in return. But the newer version of me is sitting with that, is sitting with setting the boundary and sitting with being proud that I was actually able to speak up for myself and advocate for myself. And if this relationship dissolves as a result of it, it's okay. It's out of my hands. Now, notice how all those scripts that I gave you are clear about the boundary, brief without excessive explanation, kind without being apologetic, and they are final. Final. There's no room for negotiation. Now, you can adapt those to your specific situations and personal communication style, but keep those principles intact. And if you need to go back to this video, rewind and take down some notes on those specific scripts, go ahead and do that because it can be helpful. And that's how I started. Now, after you say no, here's what typically happens. You'll feel uncomfortable, right? You're adjusting to a new pattern. Doesn't mean that you did something wrong. It means that you did something different. You might want to fix it, like the example that I just shared about me. You'll be tempted to reach out, soften what you said, add more explanation, check if they're mad at you. Resist this urge unless something genuinely requires clarification. This is going to take some willpower on your part to resist the urge. They might need time to adjust. People who are used to you always saying yes will need time to recalibrate their expectations. Give them space to process, but also understand that they might choose to not be in your life anymore. Not everyone will handle that. Some people will respect your boundary immediately, others will test it. And a few will be upset. And none of this means that you should change your no. So what do you do? Trust that your no was valid when you gave it. So what do you do to prevent conflict, to prevent fights? Trust that your no was valid when you gave it. Don't revisit the decision unless new information genuinely changes things. Let others have their feelings without making them your responsibility. Celebrate that you honored yourself. Notice how your energy feels now that you're not carrying any resentment. Notice if you are feeling freer, that you can actually take a breath in because you're not doing something you don't want to do. So here's what I want you to remember. You can say no clearly, kindly, and firmly. And you don't need perfect words. You need honest ones. Honesty is key here. You don't need everyone to be happy about your boundaries. You need to honor them anyway. The drama around your no usually comes not from the no itself, but how we deliver it. There's some responsibility that falls on us for this. When you're clear, kind, and unapologetic, most people will respect your boundary, even if they're disappointed by it. So here's your practice this week. Use one of the scripts that I gave you in a real situation. Notice how it feels to say no without over-explaining, without apologizing excessively, or without leaving the door open for negotiation. And as we end this episode today, drop a comment telling me what's the scenario you struggle most with saying no in. Let's support each other here. Remember, a clear no delivered with kindness is better than a resentful yes every single time. See you in the next episode.